Doctors of Reddit. What is one of your favorite dumbest cases you have experienced in regards to the patient? Well, military medicine is a tad bit different. But same thing applies. I had this Marine come in with a big hole through his left foot. And as I'm asking him what were you doing at the time and how did it happen? He replied I was at the range and I wanted to see if my steel toe boots were bulletproof. I guess not, doc. A 30-something-year-old lady came in with vaginal bleeding. Nothing else noteworthy going on. No abdominal pain. No stinging when she peed. No abnormal discharge. No fevers. And the bleeding wasn't particularly heavy. Her last period was 4 weeks earlier. And she had regular 4 weekly periods. Surprise, surprise. Period. My friend's dad is a vet. He once told me that a lady took her cat in because it kept getting sick, meowing oddly and throwing up. It later came out she was force feeding her cat Fruit Loops for dessert. As if it were a completely normal thing to do. Man came in with a rubber band doubled around one finger. The finger was blue. Another doctor and I just looked at the finger. Then looked at him. The unspoken question, never answered, was why? But the thing that bothered me then and to this day was, when it started hurting, why didn't you take the rubber band off? The woman who got into a fight with her husband took out her handgun and fired into the ground to teach him a lesson. She shot herself in the foot. I remember a patient who came in with eye irritation. From the beginning it was clear something unusual was going on. There was an alarming amount of plant material packed under his eyelids. While rinsing it out for him he explained he was vacuum sealing marijuana and opened the lid of a tube to look inside. The actual physics of how this happened from a vacuum sealer are not clear to me. I think he was reluctant to admit he was pressurizing it to create extracts. But whatever. In any case he received a face full of pressurized marijuana, most of which seemed to collect under his eyelids. After pressurizing a container full of weed and promptly opening it inches from his face to look inside. Dumbus. The woman with 5 kids who when asked at her midwife act if she needs contraceptive advice goes oh no, he always pulls out. Genuinely believes her 5 soon to be 6 kids are immaculate conception. This is not my story. Nor do I know how true it is. But I don't see why it would be a lie. My high school biology teacher has a best friend who is an ER physician. The doctor told my teacher a story, who then passed it on to us, about a drunk and belligerent college kid who came in unconscious. He woke up to a catheter in him and walked into the hallway, urine bag in hand, demanding the doctor take it out. After the doctor refused, he got angry and decided to throw the bag at the doctor, who promptly stepped out of the way. You can imagine what happened next. Edit. Based on the comments. This happens a lot lol. Not a doctor but I work in a hospital. Have had to remove bottles of ethanol based hand sanitizer from the rooms of patients who have alcohol addictions. They actually tried drinking the stuff. Yuck. In residency my so saw a patient with severe lacerations to the vag. Come to find out she and her old man were having a rather passionate time, and being a good man he wanted to spice it up. Looking about he didn't see what he wanted, so he ran to the kitchen. Grabbed her, I am not making this up, star cookie cutter. Put it on his manhood and ran back and sliced her pussy into ribbons. How many vajajas must suffer before our government puts a warning label on star cookie cutters? The EMT who strapped my brother to the gurney literally said, "You've done a stupidest thing today, kid." As he did it, my brother got into my dad's tool shed and started up the freaking chainsaw when no one but us very young kids were home. He was 15 and I guess thought he could handle it. But I was about 11, so I can't even begin to tell you what he needed it for. Anyway, it kicked back real hard when he turned it on and he panicked and dropped it and completely chainsawed off what seemed like half his foot but ended up just being 4 of 5 toes and part of the very top right side. The EMT had to turn off the chainsaw when the ambulance arrived because neither me or my brother could do it. We literally had to wait while my brother and I held a shirt to his foot. We also had to tie a sleeve around this leg because the lady on the phone told us to, while the EMT carefully snuck up on a running chainsaw and turned it off. He was fine, but those toes are toast, and he's now a 29-year-old father of 4 with a prosthetic insert for all his right shoes. Edit. And also TLDR, I'm told that's not how chainsaws work. I've told the story how I remember it, but it's been 15 years and I wasn't exactly calm during any of this. So who knows the actual details of it all. But this is a story as supplied to me by my memories. My brother got my dad's old chainsaw going and found a way to take off his toes. Then I had to tie a South Park hoodie sleeve around his leg. Ctrl+F blender. But no ER doctors posted my story yet. Well, time to embarrass myself. I was the patient. Was using a hand blender to make guacamole. There was blended avocado stuck inside the blender. And I wanted it in the bowl. So like a dumbass, I put my finger in there. And like a dumbass, I turned it on. I escaped the consequences of my stupidity almost completely. All they had to do was give me a bandage and a tetanus shot. But for a split second, I was worried I had chopped off the tip of my finger in one of the stupidest ways possible. Everyone in the ER got a joke at my expensive in. And I don't blame them a bit. Not a doctor. 911 operator and EMT. I had someone call one night because their girlfriend burnt herself with a pot of hot water. He told me it happened about 20 minutes prior to him calling, and in the meantime he had slathered on butter to cool the wound. Quite shocked at that. I said, "Oh no sir, we do not put butter on burns," and he was like, "Wait, is that bad?" Growing up we always held a frozen stick of butter on burns. At some point it changed to dunking it in a bowl of ice water. But I never quite knew what the logic for butter was. Not a doctor. But my own dumbass case here. In summer of 2014 me and my friends were ducking around with a blowgun. We gladly used rolled up papers as ammo. A friend of mine decided to aim at me and blow. As he blowed, I turned my head away. And suddenly I heard a bang followed by the loudest ringing sound. The paper penetrated right through my eardrum while I turned. What are the odds? After I went to the doctors, he told me he hasn't experienced something like this ever. Ringing sound went away after 6 weeks. AskReddit here. One time a patient came in complaining of severe eye pain with visual disturbances in both eyes, which started about 3 weeks prior. ED doc asked if they wore contacts and they said yes. And that they knew why their eyes started hurting. They hadn't been cleaning or removing their contacts before that initial 3 weeks. Then they kept ducking wearing them for those 3 weeks until they came to the ER. They were another couple days away from losing their vision permanently. Patient here was chopping wood, wearing flip-flops at the cottage. Was 90 minutes from a hospital and axed myself in the foot. Luckily, I missed all the important bits and just needed 20 something stitches. Emerg doc tells me they have a word for people like me. Sishit. An idiot from the city. I was not offended. Edit. So, I know it's not hugely impressive, but this is now my top comment. Next time I'm at the emergency room in Bancroft, Ontario, I'll track down the doctor who bestowed upon me the title of Sishiat and thank him. When working in an ER in a rural area, we had a man come in with the broken off end of an adjustable wrench. The ring part that is there so you can hang it up, stuck on his erect pen 15. He was using it as a big dig ring. We ended up having to use bolt cutters to remove it. Bolt cutters are not the most delicate instruments. Needless to say, his pen 15 was chewed up pretty good by the time we removed it. I hope he learned his lesson. Not a doctor, but I did work as a scribe in the ED. Had a blacklisted patient come in looking for pain meds. Computer records say her last visit was maybe 6 months prior. During the exam, she told us it was her first time at this hospital. So my physician says, "So you're saying you were never here back in March 2016? What about December 2015? No? Do you have a identical twin who may be using your name? Because that's the only way I believe you were never here. No? Oh, this is very serious then. I think we have a case of identity theft going on. Hold on just a moment and I can contact PD for you. The patient quickly remembered her previous visits and eloped shortly after that conversation. Not a doctor but was on a clinical rotation in school and someone took something like 11 Benadryl trying to get high. Poor thing got her stomach pumped and ended up on a psych hold restrained to her bed because she was too loopy to communicate, and family and staff assumed a suicide attempt because she hadn't had any substance abuse in her past, to their knowledge. Designated medical officer on a small commercial dive team in Honduras a few years back. I cleared people to dive and gave the final go no go. It was about 0900. I had my buddy come to me looking really concerned and he tells me to just come with him. I follow him to this grove of trees where I can see one of our divers has set up a hammock. He is sitting in it in tears, trying to cover his arm. Apparently after a heavy night of drinking he passed out in this hammock with his arm hanging down and his hand touching the ground. A colony of ants went to town. Some background. This diver was 6 feet 6 inches. Red hair. Crazy guy who feared nothing. Never seen the dude in tears before. This guy got robbed at knife point once and grabbed the knife laughing. It was that bad that he was in tears. It's not a specific event, but it is the people that come into emergency along the lines of this. I've been having chest pain for 3 months and decided to come in today because I was driving by. Or, I have a doctor's appointment at 4 PM but I have some free time now. We told this person that we're refusing to see them and that they can wait until their appointment. Not only are they wasting our time and money, the emergency doc, but the family doc that now has a no-show for an hour slot. BTW, this is in Canada, so usually no charges to the patient for no-shows and being seen in emergency. ER nurse here. Had a mother bring her 4-month-old in because his nap was longer than usual. Apparently the baby slept for an extra 30 minutes so she assumed he was going to die. Sigh. This one is kinda sad that she was so worried over something normal. Hopefully she got a referral for a parenting class or something. Some people are totally clueless about babies. In fact, I'm one of them. I have no idea how long babies are supposed to sleep, how often they need to eat, etc. But I just don't have any. Okay. I'm going to chuck in my paramedic. Not a doctor story. This was only a few months back. A man decided to impress a group of women by jumping from the first floor of a building onto a group of umbrellas set up for an alfresco dining area on the street below. He actually told us he intended to bounce from one to the next. etc. Went straight through the first umbrella. Of course. Shattered the bones in both his lower legs instead. This was a man in his 40s. I actually asked him, "You're in your 40s and you're still using silly playground tricks to impress chicks?" He at least had the sense to look embarrassed. I then asked him, "So what happened to the women?" "Oh. They just laughed at me while looking over the edge." Similar story in regard to the age. Went to a concert for a once popular punk band. Popular in Australia anyway, back in the 90s. This bloke, again in his 40s, thought he would relive his youth by doing a stage dive. Just like in the movies. The crowd parted and he crashed on through to the floor instead. Had a head laceration and blood everywhere. He had shaved his head into a mohawk. Seemingly that day, the bald part was very white. He just looked like an idiot. Not a doctor, but I do work in industry. The number of dumbasses sticking their hands inside manufacturing machinery is too damn high. You're really going to clear whatever stopped the metal bending machine with your hand? I hope you've made peace with alrighty. And it's never the big things. Furnace the temperature of the sun. Someone touches some external bit that's a little too hot and gets a red mark. Box the size of an old TV that bends wire. Lost fingers everywhere. I work at an animal hospital. One of the techs told me a lady called in one day and was frantic because her dog ate some capsule that was on the ground outside. She then told our tech that there was another capsule on the ground. So the lady herself decided to ingest it to feel what her dog felt. Woman couldn't afford an IUD but wanted to have a similar type of birth control, so she figured if she used superglue it would do the trick. So she came in with severe burning to her cervix. Yep. Superglued cervix. Yep. I was the patient. I was cooking latkes, potato pancakes, drunk at 2 AM. Latkes are cooked in a heavy bottom skillet full of oil. I forgot about this and decided to do the pan flip thing, dousing my entire arm and getting burnt really badly. Doctor asked me if they were at least good latkes.